Hey y'all, Dan with the Southern Paddler channel here. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what I take on my trips. I've had several requests recently for gear loadouts and some of the gear that I use and so forth. And I appreciate those requests, so I want to honor that and do that now. I haven't done it before because I'll tell you right now, I'm not a gear expert. I hate shopping and I'm not real crazy about spending money, but I guess when it comes to kayaking and being outdoors, I'll probably spend it a lot quicker than I will anywhere else. But I don't always do maybe the research that I should. I don't do a lot of comparison. I'm not going to spend a lot of time looking for something. What I will do is I will look closely at a product to make sure that it, best I can tell, fits what I want it to do, fits my needs. And if so, and if it's reasonable priced, I'll buy it and I'll be done with it. But I'm not going to watch something for a long period of time or do a whole lot of comparisons. That's probably not good. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You probably should, and I'll try to get better at it. But most of the gear I don't have a lot of name brand stuff. I buy usually what's convenient, reasonably priced, something I think that will work. If it works, I'll stay with it. If I later learn of something that works better, or if I research something and determine that the value in it is worth the additional cost, then I will go ahead and buy that. As a matter of fact, let me start with the first thing in my gear loadout, because it's one of those things that I've upgraded not too long ago, and that is, and it's always important to have, a paddle. This is a Manta Ray carbon paddle. It has the carbon shaft, has the poly or plastic blades. And the paddle is one of those things that you can spend a lot of money on, and you can certainly find some more expensive than these. But the Aquabound Manta Ray Carbon is a fantastic paddle. Let's see, I'm getting close to 5 years that I've been making videos. For probably the first 3+ years, I just used an Academy paddle. I started off with their base paddle. It was like 30 bucks, had aluminum shaft, big poly blades. It worked. I didn't think much about it. I just went with it. So I was doing one of my trips with Ken Whiting. I've had the opportunity to do 2 trips with Ken, and of course one of his sponsors is Aquabound paddles. So on one of his trips, he told me, he said, I think the Aquabound Manta Ray Carbon would be a good paddle for you. I said, well, I'll look into it. So after one of those trips, I actually went to their website, and they have this really cool thing called the Paddle Finder, where you put in the kind of paddling you like to do and the boats you have and all this stuff, and it helps you decide which of their paddles is the best for you. So I went through that, and sure enough, it came to the Manta Ray Carbon paddle, and that's because I do a lot of mostly flat water recreational paddling and some distance, but I want a good strong paddle that's going to have a big bite that I can move me or my boats, because we're both heavy, me, and especially if I'm in my canoe with a couple days worth of camping gear. So I want a strong paddle that I can move all of that through the water. Big blade, big bite, but yet it's efficient and it's super light because this is a carbon fiber shaft. So the Aquabound Manta Ray Carbon is a great paddle, but again, just find what works for you. It doesn't have to be a nicer paddle, but it's one of those things where I think that the more money you spend on it, to a degree, you'll certainly get some benefits out of it. Similar to that is your PFD, or your personal flotation device, or life vest as we called them most of my life. This is a NRS Chinook. I got this at Academy as well, and it was an upgrade for basically just a Academy basic PFD that I had for years and years. But this, the NRS Chinook, is a very comfortable jacket. I really like it because it has a lot of pockets and storage areas. And of course, another great thing to have, this part on here, is your Neko knife that fits into that little square patch right there. And so that's just something that it locks in. So even though it's upside down, it won't ever come out, but you can pull it out quickly. It's right there on your chest where you need it. So I have that, and this is my PFD. And this is nice. This one has some reflective material on it, and another thing I like about this vest, and if you're for kayakers, you want to look at this too. This has the high back. See, it's got a little mesh right here where it goes around your waist, but the back, the flotation part or the padding is high, so that when you're sitting in a kayak with a seat back, it doesn't make you lean forward. It's up above the seat. So definitely I would suggest that when you're looking for a PFD, look for something that's called a paddle vest or something designed for kayaking, because if it's not, the flotation part's going to come on down. It's going to be between you and your seat, and that's going to be very uncomfortable. Something else that I always have with me on all my trips are tethers. And a tether is simply a cord, and this is paracord with a loop here on one end and a carabiner on the other. And I use this to tie everything to my boat. In a minute, I'm going to talk about my dry box that I have, my dry bag, my cameras, all of the important stuff, basically everything that I absolutely want to keep. If I turn over or something happens, I have tethered to the boat. So just a standard carabiner will work more times than not. These aren't anything fancy, but they're going to keep stuff with your boat. Trust me, I've tested it several times. But I will say, I'm not an expert on knots, but I believe this is what's called a cow hitch. You can look that up on how to tie one. But the nice thing is that you can slide this. See, I can just make that big loop bigger or smaller. And the nice thing is, so what I can do is I can open it up. This is the one for my camera. I slide it around my GoPro. Once I get it on there, then I tighten it up tight against the camera. And the benefit of the cow hitch is that when you pull it tight, it's not supposed to give. It's not supposed to cinch down. Now it did there because I moved my fingers, but if I don't move my fingers and I pull it straight like that, see, that won't move. And so that way I can get it snug against the camera. But if it goes overboard, gets hung up, and I start yanking on the cord, it's not going to just cinch down and break. And that's more important probably for so not only the electronic equipment, but really anything, because you don't want it to just absolutely snap it in half. But here's my dry box and my tether on it. And here is my dry bag that I keep most of my gear. And again, here's a tether for it. Right now it's attached to my bag, but when I put it in my boat, there's always one of these carabiners that's going to be affixed to my boat so that when I turn over, it stays with the boat. So another thing that I always have with me in my boat is a dry box. I'm not real sure this may be a Pelican brand. It says Survivor on it. Now be careful, because this is probably what would be considered splash proof. I can put it in the boat, you know, water can splash over it, it's going to be fine. I have turned over with it and it's been in the water and everything stayed, you know, dry. But it has a seal right here in the, you can see the seal right here that goes around the lid, and so it will keep things mostly dry, but it's not intended to be submerged underwater and held there. They do make dry boxes that are submersible. Generally the ones like that will have the little pressure release valve somewhere on it to kind of let it equalize but not let the water in. But for what I do, if you do whitewater or something crazy, you may want that. Or if you have something very expensive, you may want one of those. But for all intents and purposes, for the stuff that I do, this one has been fine. And of course, I do keep it tethered to the boat. In here, I usually keep my GPS that helps record time and distance of the trips. I usually keep my phone in there. And also keep spare batteries for my GoPros, and as you can tell, I keep those in a Ziploc baggie. This is a little snack size baggie, and that helps keep them dry in case some water does leak in, or in case you open it and something splashes in, so an extra layer there. I usually keep a couple of extra mounts. This is the mount for my pole that's on my camera. It's always good to have a little flashlight with you. I have another lock blade knife in there. I have a lens cloth for my cameras, hand sanitizer, so just some stuff like that, chapstick, so stuff that, you know, this is stuff that I'm going to reach for while I'm in the boat, stuff that I keep close to me, and stuff that does need to stay dry. On this particular trip, because I'm out in the evening, there's a chance that something could happen and it could get dark before I get back. I actually have a headlamp, and so this headlamp will and these are important too, besides just a flashlight, because if you're paddling, you think you might get caught out after water. Obviously, you know, you can slide these on, and then you have light, and you can direct that light and keep your hands free to paddle. So headlights are actually important, and something I have not on day trips, but certainly on afternoon trips or trips where I think there's a chance that I may be out at dark. And this is my dry bag. I always have at least one, pretty much. There's some trips, if I'm just doing a real quick trip, I may go without the dry bag. I always have the dry box because, again, my phone, GPS, whatever else, I'll keep in there. Keys and wallets, things that you don't want to leave in your truck but that you got to have with you, I'll have in one of these two. But this dry bag is something that I take on trips where, if I'm recording, I have it because I can keep some extra parts for my camera poles. They break down into little, about almost 1 foot sections and fit in there. But you know, this brand is a Pisk Fun, maybe, I don't know. Again, I'm not always big on name brands, but I got it off Amazon. The nice thing about this one, of course, you see I do have the tether on it. The nice thing about this one is it has this pouch here to easily store something that you can get in and out. Obviously, it's not going to keep it dry, but for easy access, in this case, I have lots of paracord and some tethers and stuff already made up. So maybe I need to tie my boat off and get out, or have to tie somebody's boat to mine to kind of help them out, whatever reason. So that's usually what I keep in this pouch. But the dry bags, you know, you simply hold the ends together, roll them about 3 times, and then buckle them together, and they do a really good job of keeping stuff dry. Now, in my dry bag, you know, I have like my wallet, my keys, stuff that I keep there. I will have some extra parts for my camera, like here's a mount for the pole in the back. Here is an extra little flex pole that I use in the front. Always have some paracord with me. Ooh, there's my keys. Good thing I have those. Usually have several types of, these are gear ties, things to fasten stuff or hold stuff together. So there's gear ties. Here's some Velcro straps that will go around stuff. Always have some extra carabiners. I think those are some key rings that I have put on there. Yeah, I showed you I like knives. I'm not a collector or aficionado, but I always make sure that I have several. So you see that I have one in my dry box. I had one on my PFD, and here's a bigger knife that I have just in case I need it while I'm out in the woods. A repair kit, some Gorilla Tape, some silicone, some kind of epoxy little patches in there. And of course, it's in a Ziploc bag to help keep it dry. I usually have, this is my little fire starter kit. I've got a lighter, some weatherproof matches, 1 or 2 types of fire starters in case everything's damp. So, so some stuff like that. When you're 53 like I am and you can't see good, you gotta always have an extra pair of glasses because I can't see my phone without it. So, and of course, this was some little storage device for, I forgot what came in it, but you can repurpose stuff. Whatever was in it, I didn't really need to bring with me, but this makes for a great little first aid kit. So I have some band-aids here and here, Neosporin, some athletic tape, because sometimes, like I recently cut my thumb, band-aid wouldn't go around it, so the tape holds it on there. You know, first aid kits are good, and I recommend having them, but some of them can be a little bulky, and you may not need everything in it, but at the very least, have some band-aids, Neosporin, and some tape to kind of help hold it on there if it's, you know, on the thumb or part of your arm or wrist where, you know, you need it to stay on there, but you can't necessarily do that with the band-aid itself. Let's see. Okay, now here's some extra mounts and little parts for my cameras. The Ziploc baggies, not so much for waterproofing, but simply to keep them together so I can find them easily. Speaking of Ziploc baggies, I always have extra of those. You never know when you or someone else might want to just pick up something. Maybe it's something that's been in the water and you don't want it to get dirt or mud over everything else in your dry bag. Somebody else needs to. I have the gallon Ziploc bags. I have some quarts. They make for good phone cases. If somebody forgot a phone case, you can say, hey, at least put it in a Ziploc baggie, you know, and then help protect it. So that's pretty much, you know, all the stuff I have. Now, I will say, you know, is all that stuff necessary? Because I have a lot of junk. Probably not. I'm not a good packer. I will always have more than I need, and I will probably end up with a heavier boat than what I should have because of that. Have I used all of that? There's been a couple times where I have used a paracord. That's very handy. You just cut off the length you need, cut it. Carabiners, I have used those to make a tether or to help fasten something together or whatever. You know, fire starters, I have been out where I didn't really intend to start a fire, but maybe not start it for an emergency purposes, but maybe had some time and thought, you know what, I just want to build a little fire, and so I did that again. But especially for emergency purposes, If you want to get warm and you get wet on a trip where it's cooler, that's great to have. So, I haven't used everything in there, but it's all stuff that I could very easily see myself using. Again, it's not all name brand stuff. I don't even know what half of it is. That's pretty much my loadout. Again, you just have to kind of figure out what works for you. Just take what I've said as maybe some ideas. That's what I take, probably a little more than usual, so you don't have to take that much, or you could take less of what I take. Cut the paracord in half and take only a little bit. Only take 2 or 3 carabiners, things like that. So you can narrow it down and get it smaller and a little more compact. But just think about, if you're out there, what are some things that you feel like you might need. But anyway, that's my loadout. That's the stuff that I take with me. Maybe that's giving you some ideas. You can figure out what works for you, but I hope you enjoyed watching this, and hopefully soon I'll do one on my actual camping gear and talk in a little more detail about the stuff that I take with me when I camp. I can assure you it's the same. It's not all name brand. Most of it's off Amazon, and it's stuff that I bought it and it worked and I just stayed with it. So that'll be another video, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.